Hey everyone, it's Jerry at the Fledge. Welcome to another episode of Every Damn Day. And today on the show we have our good friend Jynell. How you doing, Jynell?
Hi, Jerry. Thanks for having me here.
Oh,
Hi,
we're
Lance.
happy to have you. Yeah, welcome back.
I'm back
You are
again.
back.
Yeah, I respawned to the nearest QD as per city rules. So I'm here and I'm ready to go.
Yeah. So how you doing today? What you been doing today?
Today I have been doing some artwork. I'm working on a couple of commissions that are watercolor illustrations. This one is a screaming cicada because everyone knows that in the summertime the cicadas just like to sit in the trees and they scream as loud as they can, which kind of resonates how a lot of us are probably feeling during this pandemic. So this is a really fun project.
Yeah. So
I'm
they're a lot
with those
freer than
plants in the
us.
basement right now.
So why don't you we've been joking around about this, but why don't you tell us a little bit about you and a little bit about the 2 billion projects that you're working on?
2 billion is, it's gonna have to be more 4 billion here. So I am Lansing born and raised. I've lived here for almost all of my 34 years. I have seen this city just change and morph every single year. There's something new or something getting torn down. And I've worked in all sorts of different places around town. I've worked in grocery stores that have come and gone. I've worked on organic farms. And then one day I decided to make like a hobbit and I took off for a great adventure to different states where I've lived in Colorado, I've lived in Wyoming, I've lived in Wisconsin, I lived in Illinois. And I picked up sword fighting, fencing, Viking reenactment, heavy armored fighting as well. So in the end, whenever I do come back to Lansing, whether it's to visit or recharge, I kind of feel like a hobbit that's just come back from Gondor after throwing a ring into the lava. And there's always something new for me to tell everyone who just asked the simple question, how are you doing?
So I want to stop you for a second. And you said sword fighting and fencing. And some
Yes.
people are probably scratching their head and saying, well, isn't that the same thing? But when you say sword fighting, I think all you have to do is move to the side. This is what you mean. You mean big swords, like trying to chop each other's heads off, right?
And what you see behind me, this is just a small portion of the collection of things that I've actually used. Some of the swords are plastic, some are metal, some are blunt, some are sharp. It depends on what it is that you want to do with the weapons. There is longsword fencing, which is an actual sport. Most popular is going to be Italian or German longsword. It is called HEMA, Historical European Martial Arts, where they take these manuscripts from the 18th century, 17th century, and all these old guys from way back then actually made up their own martial arts and came up with techniques that could be used in a sport. So not just in particularly actually trying to kill people, but it is almost like an Olympic style sport with heavier weapons, and people will go around the country, even the world, and fence for this sport. And it's stupid fun.
Is that what you guys did at the Fledge that one day?
Yeah. So you were there when we were doing a sparring day where we just all got together and hit each other and had a great time.
People don't believe that we did that or that somebody did that in our, sacred church sanctuary here.
There at the moment, because of COVID, there is a group here in Lansing called the Lansing Longsword Guild, and that is run by Adam Franti. So if he hears this, I am calling him out as an awesome teacher. So if you look them up on Facebook or reach out to them, you get more information about the Lansing Longsword Guild. Great people, and they just love what they do.
I have a superstition that if you say somebody's name 3 times on the show, they'll come on the show later. So if you want to mention him a couple more times, I wouldn't mind talking to him.
Sure.
So sword fighting, fencing, We talked about you're doing art right now, so we know a lot about you so far.
Okay.
You got another thing that you're thinking about. You want to talk about your Lansing, the Grand Adventure or the Great Adventure?
So this kind of started up as a joke, actually, because of a Facebook post where I think it was probably 2 years ago, where everyone's making fun of the quality dairies because it almost seems like whenever you're in a quest or a mission or some kind of errand and it fails, you just respawn at that original quality dairy. And that just kind of stuck with me for the last couple of years, because when I always come back to my father's house, there is in fact a quality dairy that's just a block away, that is within sight of my window. So I've already designated that as my respawn point. And the more I would just kind of daydream while I would drive around, do errands, I would think about ways that Lansing just kind of feels like that game of life where you kind of make choices and it leads you on some sort of magical quest. But if you fail, then you kind of lose those experience points and you go back to your respawn point to start over.
So when I was a real little kid, my kid quality dairy was the one at Kavanaugh in Pennsylvania. And then as I got older, my next quality dairy was by Gardner, Washington, and Jolly. And then in high school, my quality dairy was the one on Saginaw and Larch or Cedar. I don't know why they do that to us. And my current quality dairy is the Green Lawn Cedar Street one. So we all got our home-based quality dairies, I guess.
We do. And some quality dairies are just simply save points, where if you don't stray too far and everything seems okay, you can use it as a save point. But if your mission fails, you just respawn at that one you started out with.
So what's this game? Go ahead. What's this game look like? Is it a board game? Is it a computer game? Is it a Dungeons and Dragons game?
So I'm thinking what might be more of like a cross of a board and card game, where I want to do a map board with little spots that you can jump around with some dice, whichever you want to use to add up numbers to do spaces. And each space will be a draw 2 cards, or the space will say, you're going to be turning north on MLK, or you'll just kind of be cruising around the Lansing area to different landmarks in different places. And then if you draw the cards that say you just got a grant to visit Chicago and you're actually able to leave Lansing, that's when the game gets harder and there will be more rules. Because if you mess up, then the vortex that is inside Lansing at the Capitol building will suck you back. And you'll have to respawn and then try to start over.
So you named a few states that you lived in. How many times have you left and come back, if you don't mind?
I can't remember. I wish I could. Probably more than 10 times I've left and come back.
I don't think anybody's ever fact checked this show at all, because we have no credibility to start with. So
yeah, you can't take my word for it, but it's been many times, and it's actually to the point where I'll just come back and I'll go to a store and the person at the store will know me and they'll ask me, well, it's nice to see you back. Are you back home, or where are you even living at? And it's always that question. And sometimes I don't even know how to answer the question. I said, I don't know. I'm just here. Nice to see you. And I'll tell them what I'm up to. Yeah. So it just depends on the situation.
So where are you at in the game development right now? Are you in the design phase? Do you have some physical cards, or?
Right now, I think my first task is I want to draw up the board map, and I want to include a lot of the landmarks that we know and love here. So the fish ladder, of course, is going to be there. I want the Lansing Capitol. It might be on fire in my drawing. I'm not sure what is going on with the Capitol. Every time I come back, something is going on with the Capitol at this point. The there's going to be 1,000 QDs everywhere. There's going to be Big Bs everywhere. We're going to have like kind of like Where's Waldo, but it'll be Sparty. I want to add that somewhere. So not only is it just going to be a board game that you're going to interact with, but I just want to make it an art piece as well as how I am perceiving Lansing, both jokingly and lovingly.
Do you see yourself doing all of the art?
I do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
I
awesome.
definitely do. I'm open to ideas, but I think is just kind of one way that I can reconnect with the city as well is if I am doing it myself. So maybe it'll let me love Lansing more.
Will the card game have like a tarot card vibe to it, where there'll be really sweet ass cards?
There's gonna be there'll be sweet ass art. There's gonna
Yeah.
be some of them are just gonna be plain silly.
Yeah.
Like lost, like one's gonna be you found an empty bag of Doritos getting eaten by a rat on Waverly Street. Disregard this card. So it's just kind of weird little quirky things like that as well that just made the game fun.
Yeah. So, do you love or hate the smokestacks?
The smokestacks.
Yeah. Inky, Binky, and Flinky, or whatever. I hate them. So,
It or not, you gotta learn the proper names. The funny story: when I was 5 years old, those smokestacks terrified me because at night they would blink red instead of flashing white like they did during the day. And anything that blinked red, especially if I could see it, I perceived it as it was going to come to life and eat me. So if I happened to be in the car with my parents that night and we drove past the smokestacks and they were blinking red, I would start crying because I thought they would come to life and come to my house and get me. But and as I grew older, of course, I knew they just stayed in place. So I feel like as much as some people love or hate what they do for the, to the environment with emissions or whatnot, they're kind of they're part of Lansing. They're part of the landscape. If they go away, like the big old cigarette looking smokestack that was with Board of Water and Light goes away, then it's just going to take away more of the landscape that we're just so used to. Could be a good thing, could be a bad thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I know if I came back and they were gone, I would just be like, what the hell did they tear down now?
Would you be as upset as the original Big B being torn down?
We're destroying the Big B. I'm mad about that Big B. I like I said, I remember when that was a bus station and we took my sister there so she could take a bus to see someone. And then it turned into a nice coffee shop and it was cute with this little arched dome, and we would do the farmer's market there. And every morning I ran the booth. I would go get my coffee there and everything was fine. There were no giant apartment buildings next to it. That park was just open space. And then 2 days ago, I'm playing Pokemon and I was delivering books to Archive Books so that they can get a donation of some books that my mom left behind. And I noticed that it's just this husk with some rubble around it. And you can kind of see the skeleton of what the building used to be. I was really mad. I shook my fist at it.
So
picture.
We could probably go on and on about Quality Dairy and the smokestacks and the good and the bad and our friends on Waverly Road and how that's all changed over the years. So I said you had 2 billion projects. We covered a few. Is there any? There's a bunch of things I've been wanting to ask and thinking about, because you and I, we've talked several times over the, I guess, last couple of years. I don't even know how we met. Maybe you needed a spot for.
I think I was looking for a place that we could hit each other with swords, and even you just raised your eyebrow at me. I said, "No, I'm not kidding. Here's what we do." And he said, "Cool.
Yeah, let's do it." I say yes to everything.
Oh my gosh, I worry about it.
Yeah, me too. So with all of this going on, what would you say, like, how would you encapsulate what your mission is?
Are we talking about present time mission or long-term mission?
What do you want to talk about? It could be either one of those, or we could say both.
Well, my mission right now is to find ways to make Lansing a little less shitty. So I know what I do like about the town. I know what I don't like about the town. So now that I'm back and I know that I have access to change some things that I don't like about the town, I might as well just do it. So that whether it is helping Miss Julia with her punks with lunch thing, helping people with their community gardens, helping people need maybe move a washing machine to their house, just little things like that to start with is kind of one of my goals to, and maybe one of those favors will help guide me to yet another open door to whatever land.
Can I make a bold statement?
Yes, do it.
You said make Lansing a little less shitty, but I think you love Lansing.
So I am definitely one of those true Lansingites that I contradict my feelings for Lansing, and I admit it entirely because this is my hometown. And I know so many people here. It almost felt like the paparazzi. I was trying to get a burrito the other day and people wouldn't leave me alone. They just recognized me by my hair. I still had a mask and everything. And they said, "Hey, you're the sword fighter, Colorado. Something with swords. You're her." I was just like, yeah, I know. I'm just trying to get a burrito. So what is most endearing about the town is the people in the community itself and how they are still trying to find ways to make the community better no matter what. So I think that's kind of what it is that lets me like.
You're in lagging just a little. Yeah. Okay.
So was yours. So, and you're actually frozen in place. Looks like we're
losing you a bit.
All right, we are having technical difficulty.
Yeah, you keep flashing on and off, but I think it's good. It's a little better now.
Okay. Sorry about that.
But as we've been talking, I think that's a very interesting thing that you're saying, because I was born and raised in Lansing. I'm 54 years old, and I've been here. I work a block and a half away from where I graduated high school, and I live a block and a half away from where I was born, or the hospital I was born in. And I feel that. I feel that love. What'd you call it? A contradiction, where I love it and it's the people that I love, but it's not always the infrastructure, the roads, the government, the politics, the whatever. That really struck me when you said that, that contradiction, because I think we do, especially as natives, we really have that.
We definitely do. I wasn't really looking forward to coming back, but when I started meeting up with old friends and family members, I just still felt that good old welcome home, what can we do for you vibe that just never goes away. And so that right there just always resonates with me, saying you are always welcome to come back. It's not the best, but this is your home and we care about each other.
Yeah.
So, and that's greater than even if I was to go back anywhere that I thought was just amazing and wonderful with pristine buildings and perfect roads and perfect trees and perfect land, whatever. I don't regret coming back.
Yeah. Well, we're glad you're back. So
I'm definitely back.
I think you summed up your mission as making Lansing a little less shitty. So what's Is there a bigger mission? Did you want to talk about that too?
Um, it's kind of hard to say if I do have a bigger mission, because I kind of got hooked into that feeling of wanderlust. I still want to continue seeing what is outside of Lansing, rather, not just Lansing, Michigan in general. And because I've had those chances to do so, I continue to crave more and more of just finding out what is out there, even if it means living in a place for a few months or so. And I'm not just talking about vacation just to get away from everything. It's just more of I want to experience fully what else is out there. And doing so has given me a lot of insight, more insight about just the life out there, more than books and shows and TV shows about travel could teach you. And for a while, it was actually really hard to step out of the box. It was like, I'm this cow and I'm just grazing in a field, and the farmer left the gate open, but I never noticed that the gate was open because I have everything I need there in that field. And then one day I kind of just wandered out to the gate and I went, oh my God, there's like meadows and trees and forests and all sorts of cool stuff out here. And then maybe sometimes you come back and graze on some of that grass you like, but then you just kind of wander out more because there's just a huge world out there. Sometimes it's scary. Sometimes it's gonna hurt you. Sometimes it's gonna bless you. You just don't know unless you do it. So again, I'm going to throw out a Lord of the Rings metaphor about Bilbo just being in his little hobbit hole, and then suddenly he ends up on this great adventure. And when he comes back to his hobbit hole, he's not the same. But he's got those stories to tell. He's got that experience to tell.
Well, you're kind of leading me down a path here of what I wanted to ask you. So is there some gem that when you went out on one of your quests, you learned something? Because when you come back and you blend in with Lansing, Lansing's not the same anymore. They always say you can never go home, right? So Lansing has changed. You have changed. You never dip your toe in the same river twice because it keeps flowing.
Right.
I feel the same feeling as you. I love Lansing, but I'm not one of these hashtag love Lansing, wear every shirt, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to get on the bandwagon and, say the party line. I love Lansing because of the people, and I want it to be better. I don't think we're good enough yet. I don't think we're doing enough yet. And I feel that vibe from you right now. And when you say, make it less shitty, is there something like you've learned out there that you brought back that, because I always encourage people to go discover, but come back someday?
The biggest thing that I've learned was it's entirely about, it's a lot about the community themselves. And it just depends on what city or what town you're at. But I've seen places where people help each other throughout the entirety of the town, or they are dependent entirely on just jobs, work cycle, and not helping each other at all. And I noticed that the more kinder towns are going to be the more welcoming, regardless of the entire status of the city, whether it's crumbling, brand new, well-maintained. And I noticed that I was a lot happier in the towns where people are definitely kinder to one another. And I feel like Lansing is one of those towns that if you're going to find those kind people that are going to help each other, you have to dig deep. And this is something that we notice, especially watching the news with all the political awfulness that's been going around with protest riots and whatnot, that Living in different states, we've always seen Michigan as kind of a less kind state in general. And so when I came back to Lansing, I'm blessed to know all the great people that are just they're just fighting tooth and nail to continue protecting this town, to keep it kind, to keep it nice. So I think so this kind of actually answers your question of what my larger mission was to try to spread that knowledge of just keep being nice to your town, to people, to your neighbors, to your community. And that's just what's going to help make everything flourish, even if it's just a little bit.
Yeah. So is there something you do every damn day to, one, make Lansing a little less shitty? I'm going to keep saying that.
I feel like we need a t-shirt.
Detroit had a really cool t-shirt in the 90s. They had a gun up to the head of a puppy and said, "Say something nice about Detroit." We can get something like that going.
It's almost like we should get the red hats that say "Make Lansing less shitty." I don't.
You're going to get me in trouble with all my Love Lansing people.
We're gonna help it. We're gonna help the town be pretty awesome.
Brandon Navin, who's the part of the Artist Umbrella, he was really adamant about, if you don't like Lansing, then you can either change it or leave, but don't just sit here bitching about Lansing. And I'm not saying that about you at all. I like your attitude about, let's change it. Let's get something done. Let's keep us kind and compassionate. Mm-hmm. But what's something you do every damn day to move that forward?
I talk to people. Every day I've been talking to somebody, whether it's a friend or a business owner, just, either on Facebook or on the phone. And the first question I ask is, how are you doing? If it's a business owner, how are you doing? How are things going with you? I have if there's anything that I could do to help, do you need help taking the garbage out? Do you need help cleaning some cages? I got to get back to that lady, by the way. Like when I came to interact with you, it was just kind of, hey, I'm here. Here's some company and let's help each other out with what our goals are. Reaching out to community members is something I do every day, just to not only for my gain, but for their gain as well, because they too are part of Lansing. And if I can help them grow, then I can help the city grow. So just little acts like that, just reach out to a friend of the community and just, how you doing? How can I help? Need some soup? I'll send soup.
I have a bunch of favorite phrases and stuff that I throw around. And one of them is that rivers are made with drops of water, and a kind community is made by little snippets of kindness. And I love what you're doing. I think that matters, man. Around here, it's one person, 1 minute at a time. And I think you're kind of living that and making that happen and out there doing it. So that is absolutely spectacular. So what's in the cages?
What's in the cages? Oh, I have a friend who's got a collection of reptiles, and they're pretty cute. They're fun. They're her pets. So she helped me out with one of my animals and get it a better cage. So
I'm just trying to get you to talk about sloths, man. I didn't know this was a thing.
I feel like I could go on for an hour about the sloth. And I'm sure everyone who knows me on the show knows that I have 2 sloths that are alive, and they are crawling around the other bedroom doing whatever they want. And I blame this on my mother, who loved sloths for gosh, however long. and she would collect them. She would have like little stuffed animals everywhere. She had little figurines everywhere. And then one day I came home from school and there was this box that was in the kitchen. And inside the box was a sloth that was not a toy. It was alive, and it looked at me and it opened its mouth at me. And I didn't know what to do with this animal that was in this box until my mom came around the corner and said, "Don't touch the sloth. We'll figure him out later." And I said, "All right, I guess we have a sloth now." And then we had 2 sloths. And I feel like that's just its own show itself.
See, I'm going to have to block my son from this show, because once he realizes that people can have a sloth, he'll be Googling it and trying to figure it out and all of that.
Yeah, my fiance and I were trying to figure out that, when I was in Illinois, how would we transport the sloths to Illinois without anyone knowing after my dad passes, because when the time comes, the sloths are entirely in my care, and I don't know what to do with them. They're just in the bedroom and in Lansing, Michigan. Just kind of, they're going to be another quirk in the board game. Just the Lansing sloths. Don't ask questions.
Yeah. So I won't make you talk about sloths anymore, despite my disappointment. You know what I should ask? Are they happy?
They seem happy. They eat better than I do. They get a whole entire garden salad every single night. We cut up vegetables and fruits and big pile of beans, grapes, and they did a pile on a platter, and we just put it in front of them every night, and then they just chow down and they're happy. And then a couple of weeks later, they're potty trained. They go under their Tupperware tub that's on the floor, and then rinse and repeat.
Yeah. So, and they were bred in captivity. They've never been in the wild. They weren't stolen from Costa Rica, as I think you said.
Nobody grabbed it from a tree and mailed it to the U.S. They all have papers. They're totally legal to have in Michigan. You just go on a site that's registered, and it's almost kind of like the Tiger King, almost, except with sloths.
That's not a good analogy.
No, I don't want to be Carol Baskins of the sloth world. I refuse to take that title.
That's the hashtag that's going to define the show.
I don't want to be Veverka and find out there's a sloth lord somewhere in the north that's trying to get me. Oh, God.
All right, so we'll move on. We daisy chain these shows together. So yesterday we had Barb from the Lansing Art Gallery and Education Center. Okay. And her question that she wanted me to ask you was, what are you most proud of that you've done during the pandemic that you really think is like your shining moment right now? Or product or thing or whatever. Sorry.
I feel that I handled the pandemic pretty well. Regardless that it cost me my cafe management job in Wisconsin and I had to move early. I have been through situations where quarantine was not an issue. So usually I'm an introvert. I like to just sit in my house and be a hermit. So I kind of enjoyed the slight vacation of sitting in my house and being a hermit regardless. And because of that, I feel like I handled the quarantines and pandemic pretty well, because I didn't have that desire to go out to events. I didn't have that desire to go out to a restaurant and have a beer. I didn't need to have gatherings at my house or go to gatherings, because I find solace in just being by myself. The things that I enjoy are, I'll go out into the woods. I'll go for a hike. I'll walk around a lake, ride a bicycle. And I think it's just because that's my own preferences allowed it, so I didn't have too much trouble going crazy and bonkers about the pandemics and restrictions and watching people go to protest because they couldn't get a haircut. Yes, I'm attacking you guys. I found myself, most importantly, during the pandemic because I was doing things that I enjoyed even more. Because I knew now that there were restrictions out in the world that was a good time to find meaning for myself rather than having to go out and interact with strangers. I am proud that everyone that I know and that I have had to interact with, which is very few, nobody got sick. I never got sick. My partner didn't get sick. My dad here in Michigan didn't get sick. And I'm proud to know that everyone that I care about and love is protecting each other because they're doing the same thing. They just,
what a great answer. I mean,
so finding yourself helps.
I think that not enough people took advantage of that or have been taking advantage of it. And it's not too late because we got a ways to go here. So, but I'm glad you're in a tight circle. I'm glad you're in a circle that is doing the right things. And everyone out there, do the right thing. You know, don't get sick. You're not going to like it. You had SARS. I just lauded that. I'm sorry.
It's okay. I had no voice for like a month, and then when I was better, I worked at a deli and I had to make an announcement on the PA system, and I still had no voice, so they were laughing at me as I croaked out the advertisements. But sorry if I made a mistake. Okay.
No, it's okay. All right, so I'll just move on to the next thing. Yeah. So tomorrow on the show is your friend, Julia.
Julia, hey!
With Punks with Lunch. And
I always do a show with her or we're back to back. It's just clockwork.
It worked out perfect on this one. What question would you like to ask Julia?
Julia, what do you want to tell the world about the Punks with Lunch? The whole world, not just Lansing, the world.
So if she had a microphone that was hooked up to every speaker in the world and every headphone set in the world, what would she want to tell them?
Mm-hmm. That's what
All right. All right. I can pass that along. So if you had a microphone that was hooked up the same way, what do you want to tell the world?
Be nice to each other. It is so not hard to be nice to a person. It sounds cheesy, it sounds cliche, but if we're kind to each other and we're nice and we actually listen to reason, we would be in a much better and healthier place than we are now.
And it's such a simple thing.
It's simple. It's almost like Mr. Rogers, Bob Ross. Just be nice. Help each other.
And so usually I surprise the guest at the end with take us out with something, but I want to go out with that because, you know, that simple statement gets lost on so many people as they get reactive, as they forget what their values are, as they, you know, they're just trying to survive. And if we could all just take a breath and be kind to the person next to us, what a better message to send.
I will drink my Gatorade to that.
It has electrolytes.
Plants crave them.
Yes.
And Fundraiser is a real place.
Join us next week for our talk on idiocracy and sloths. So
sounds like a book.
Yeah. Not a bad title.
I can make this happen.
So thank you for coming on the show.
You're welcome.
I really enjoyed it. And everyone out there, be kind to each other. See you later.